lovely people, Nina here. So last week I did part 1 of my book review, and this week I have part 2. And I realized I kind of read a few books over the summer. By that I mean a lot. And I have a bit of a stack in front of me. So I feel like I should just get into it and talk about all the books that I've been reading this summer. So if you are interested in a book review, then please stick around. Okay, the first book that I read was Barack Obama's A Promised Land. This one was a beast. It was a bit of a read. I think my last video I had been starting on this, so I was maybe halfway, and then I finished it a little bit after. And this is basically his life story of how he started in politics to how he got into his first year in office, and then what his first year was like. So that was this. Okay, I loved it. I love Obama. Clearly you can see my Obama posters behind me. I love Obama, and I loved this. There were some issues where I felt like maybe he was too close to the topic, and maybe he should just step back a little bit and view it as a not president of the United States and a regular human being. For instance, the housing crisis. And I don't know, I don't want to harp on it, but it was just, there were certain things that I read and I was like, you're writing this as the President of the United States, obviously, because you were, but I wish you could see it how regular, everyday human beings like me and some of y'all lived through it, because it wasn't as maybe easy or glamorous as you wrote it, and that might just be his writing style, I don't know. But there were some areas where I was like, oh, I don't love the way you wrote about that. And I think one of the things was the housing crisis that he kind of inherited. I don't know. But I did love this. I love him. I thought it was really good. Would I read it again? No. Do I want to read Michelle's? Yes. I do want to read Michelle Obama's. I feel like hers might be a little bit more not interesting, but more like facts, and I feel like he's too close to the subject, if that makes sense. I don't know. But I would give this 8 out of 10 if I'm ranking them. I don't like to rank books really, but it was good, and I'm gonna hang on to it. Also, this one was kind of nice because I got it in a used book sale, and so I got a whole bag of books for $5, which if you ever find yourself near a used book sale, you should do it because it's so much better for the environment and it's sustainable, and you get really great books. This one's hardback. It was a great book for that. But yeah. First one I read, Promised Land by Barack Obama. The second one I read, I think it was The Prince in the Skies. I'm looking at my book pile. Okay, I think this is the second one I read. It's called The Prince of the Skies. This is the story of Anthony de Superi. I don't know how to pronounce it, but I realized when I was reading this, so I read it and listened to the audiobook. I did the same with Barack Obama's book. He does the audiobook, which is I actually kind of love. He has a very soothing voice. It was very nice to listen to. I listen to the audiobook while I'm reading. It helps me focus. I said this before. So I did that for Obama's Promised Land, and I did it for The Prince of the Skies, which is the story of Anthony de Superi. Basically his life and the 2 pilots that he looked up to. that's this. It's, yeah, the story of his life. I'm blanking on the two pilots' names right now. I finished this in like July, so it's been a minute. Oh, Jean Memoise and Henry Guillemet were the other two pilots. So it's basically, those are the two pilots that Antony looked up to, and it flips between Antony, Henry, and Jean Memoise in their stories. Really interesting. You basically learn that Antony was a little bit of a better person than, what is the American pilot who was like not a good person? I'm blanking. Charles Lindbergh. Terrible, horrible person. Is mentioned in this, but I'm a good person. Yeah, so this is his story. He wrote The Little Prince when he was in New York after taking a bit of a break, but basically what you learn from this is he didn't really care about like fame or writing or his books as much. He just wanted to fly a plane. That's it. And he loved flying, and there's also a bit of like a love story and his depiction on love in this. I absolutely loved this. Honestly, I would read this one again. Yeah, I think I would read this one again. It is quite long, but I loved it, and I wrote down a few quotes from it, and it kind of made me cry, so yeah. If you like The Little Prince, or you like, I don't know, biography, autobiography, informational type books, I would read this. I marked his other books on my Goodreads account as like want to read, so I think at some point I'm going to go back and read his other, like Night Flight, and he has a few other books that I want to read that he wrote before he wrote The Little Prince, which made him like famous. Yeah. It's interesting, and he talks about how he wrote the like Little Prince and how he like basically wasn't inspired and didn't know what he wanted to write about, and he just wanted to write about like flying, and yeah. And I think it doesn't necessarily touch on it directly, but there's like parts of The Little Prince which actually happened to him in like real life, where he got stuck in a desert when he crashed his plane. And I think part of The Little Prince draws on, like, obviously not, like, real, but he gets inspiration from, like, real-life flight stories and stuff. Yeah, I don't know. It's just really interesting, and I would really recommend it. This is a good one. I also got this at Book Outlet, so it was, again, significantly cheaper than getting it, and it's saving it from, like, a landfill situation. So that was that one. The next one I have, I'm worried that this video is getting to be really long. Okay, I'm going to end with should I end with my favorite book? I'm ending with my favorite book, I think. And yeah. I read Moominland Midwinter, which I don't have. I'll put a picture of it here-ish. It's the Moomin series, and I rented it from the library, so I do not have a physical copy. But okay, if you know me, if you're watching these videos, I love Moomin. I think Moomin is so cute. And I, at one point, was obsessed with learning Finnish, which is why I discovered Moomin. And I just think it's really cute. And the comic, the little Moomin, he's just so cute. And so Moominland Midwinter is about his family hibernating for the winter and like sleeping, but he can't sleep, and so he stays up with all of his friends, and they kind of get into mischief. And yeah, it's really cute. It's a children's story, but I think anyone should read it. I just love Tove Johansson's, I think that's how you say her name, writing. It's just cute and an easy, simple read, but like it'll just make you happy. The Moomin books just make me happy. Yeah, it's very cute. And what are they called? Illustrations in it are just adorable. And it has all the Moomin characters. I think you'll love it. At one point they get into the jam stash that the mom has made, and yeah, it's just silly and cute, and I just love Moomin. So I read that one. I don't have it because it was from the library, but it's very adorable. The next one I read, I think this. Yeah, I'm gonna go with this one, and then I have one more. And then I read Why We Swim, which I picked this up because this is my mom's copy, and she had read it and was like, I really liked it. And the Olympics were happening, because Olympics happened this summer, and so I was engrossed in the Olympics, and I was like, why not read about swimming? So this is a book on why we swim, and like human nature and our connection to water. And the author of this, Bonnie Soup, and her connection to water, and basically why like humans need to interact with water is essentially it. I think it's really interesting. I also listened to the audiobook with this, and yeah, I went to the lake quite a bit this summer too, and I thought about this, like just being in the water and like, I don't know, the human connection to nature. I'm a huge nature person. The human connection to nature and water, and just being outside, and why it's so good for us. So this is really actually an interesting read if you want to kind of, I don't know about water and swimming, and if you're a big lake person like myself, or you're just obsessed with the Olympics like I was this summer and watched hours and hours and hours of swimming and swimming competitions, this one is really good. Yeah, I gave Obama a rating. I didn't give anyone else a rating. This one, 9 out of 10. Just because it took me so long, but I did say I would reread it. It did take me a long time to read, so I don't know. 9 out of 10, 10 out of 10. Really loved that. What was the other one? This one? Oh, Moomin, 10 out of 10. Super adorable. Would read again. Very cute. Why We Swim. It was cute. Maybe like 8 out of 10 again. I probably won't read it again, but I think it was really, did I say it was cute? Interesting. It was, the information in it was really interesting. And I love learning, because I'm a dork nerd. So I thought this was really interesting. So maybe like 8 out of 10. I don't know. Take my ratings with a grain of salt. The next book that I read, oh my god. The next book that I read, before I get to my favorite book, is The End of the Night. Is this in focus? I can't tell. I'm hoping this isn't all out of focus. I can't tell if this is in focus or not, so I hope it is. But The End of the Night is the next book that I read. And oh, maybe it's not. I cannot tell. Okay. But The End of the Night is the next book I read, and this is by Paul Bogard. Listen to the audiobook, which I rented from the library with this, and he does the audiobook, which is interesting. Did I love this? Kinda. I think, okay, there's something about this. Obviously, I'm a huge environmentalist, so I thought this was so interesting on how basically natural light is wrecking our eyes, but also the environment, and harming like animals and nature and just human beings, and not how bad it is, but well, it is bad, but like how we just need to limit it. Some of his arguments in here, I was like, I don't know, and kind of indifferent. You can very much tell it was written by a man, if that makes sense. I did think it was really interesting, and I've been picking this one up and putting it back down for a while, simply because I've been writing my research thesis, and this is very research heavy, so I was kind of not really in the mood to read more research, as I was already reading additional research. So this one has more of a story with it. This is heavy on the research, so if that's not really your thing, you might not love this. But I thought it was really interesting. And I even went back and looked at, like, there's a whole thing in the back of, like, all his sources and stuff. Which I found interesting, and I looked at that. I didn't hate it. I wanted to really, really, really love it because I have so many books on the environment, because I think global warming is a huge thing and really important to be talking about. And so I wanted to love this. And it was okay. I maybe I'll give it like 8 out of 10 again. I don't know. I think I need to read other books. I haven't read any. This is the only book I've read about specifically like nighttime and how we're losing it. So I think maybe reading other books about that topic might give me some perspective. But this is the only one I've read. So 10 out of 10 for addressing the environment and global warming and the impact. 8 out of 10 for somehow making it him focused. Like, I get he's the author, but there's a lot of like me involved, as in like him. I don't know. Again, it might have been an issue where he was too close to the topic and he needed to like step back a bit. But also that's research. I don't know. He talks about he like traveled around. I think it's interesting from the standpoint of he traveled around to different states and countries to analyze how they use light and their like observatories for stars and like all kinds of things. I found the piece on, it's right away in the beginning, but the piece on Vegas and basically how they're starving out the bats because the bugs are attracted to all the lights in Vegas. Ergo, the bats travel all the way to eat all those bugs, but then by the time they get back to their homes, they're exhausted and hungry again, and it's really, really bad for them. There's also a whole piece on like roadkill, and how lights are bad for them and reflecting the road. I don't know. It was interesting from the environmental standpoint. Yeah, like 8 out of 10. I don't know. If you want to read about the night and you care about the environment, I would try it. Give it a read. The last book? Yes. The last book I read, and my favorite book that I read, was Song of Achilles. About Achilles, the Greek god. And hi, editing Nina here. I'm now realizing that I didn't really give like a description of what Song of Achilles is. I just said I really liked it and that it was really good, and I loved it so much, but I didn't like say what it was. So Achilles is a Greek god. He meets Patroclus. They are like bonded together, whatever. They fall in love. Achilles' mom, Thetis, I'm so sorry about the pronunciation of the Greek names, I'm trying, doesn't like that they're together. It's a whole conflict. They basically have to like hide from her in a way. And yeah, they end up having to go to battle together because of Achilles' dad. And he sends Patroclus off, if I'm correct. And then, or no, he sends Achilles off. Achilles leaves, right? Oh my god. Yes, Achilles leaves, Patroclus follows with, because they're in love. That's essentially the whole story. I like a very, very brief, this video is already really long, but it's a very, very brief summary of it. It's very beautifully written. I loved it so, so much. That's all. Back to the video. Again, it's been a minute since I read this. I read this in July as well? June or July. I loved this so much. It had me crying. I read Circe In my last review, I talked about Circe and how much I loved it. This is this one better? I think they're maybe about the same. I loved this so much that I would read it again. It had me crying. Same with Circe. There's something about the writing in this that is just so good. And like, I understand why people like Madeline Miller's writing so much, because she writes in a way that just makes you like understand. And like, if you don't know much about Greek mythology, me, you just, I don't know, she writes in a way that makes you like get it and not have to do like a whole bunch of like background research on it, because I didn't know anything about this book. My sister was like, oh, you should read that one next because you read Circe. This is her copy. So I borrowed it from her, and she's like, you read Circe, so you should read this one next. And I was like, is it sad? And she's like, I'm not gonna tell you. It's a little sad. It's very sad. But I just loved it so much. And I don't think I could recommend this enough. It's beautiful and sad, and yeah. I loved this. My camera battery just died, so hopefully this is like not as bad. I put it on my phone instead. But I was talking about Song of Achilles. Anyways, read this if you haven't. I'm sure most of you have, but if you haven't read this, read it. Oh, I just finished speaking of this, I finished Lore of Olympus too. Shoot, well, I'll add that to my list too. So this is my favorite book that I've read. I read Lore of Olympus too, which is Hades and Persephone, essentially, and their story. And it's a graphic novel. It's really popular right now, so I'm sure you've heard of it. I've been reading it on Webtoon, which is really nice, so I can just like read it on my phone when I'm whatever on the go. I really love it. The story is really well written. The illustrations, graphic novel drawings are really good. It's sad. Greek mythology is just sad, isn't it? But it's really good. And yeah, I just read the latest like book. I'm not caught up yet. I started really late, and so I have quite a bit to read still, but I have finished her latest book that she's released, or is going to release. I'm not sure if it's out yet, but I finished it on Webtoon. So yeah, I've been loving that, and it is really good. 10 out of 10, just because I love Greek mythology. Yeah, so that is it for my book review. My current reading, I have this one, which is Check and Mate. Now, if you look at all the books that I've read, maybe besides Song of Achilles, I haven't really done like romance, because this is not my genre. I don't generally go towards a romance type book, which is what this is. But my younger sister lent me her copy and was like, will you please read this? I loved it. And I was like, oh, this isn't my favorite genre to read. But sure, yes, I will read it. I'm about halfway. And it's really cute. I should give romance, I guess, genres maybe a bit more time and a bit more of my energy, but I don't know, I just don't gravitate towards them. But I'm reading Check and Mate by Ali Hazelwood, and I feel like Ali Hazelwood is quite a popular author right now, especially on like Book Talk and such. I've seen her name around. This is the first book of hers I read. I think it's really cute, and I like it so far. So that's this one. That's Check and Mate. I'll let you know. I'll let you know when I'm done with it. Maybe next week. Yeah. Check and Mate. It's cute. If you've read this, let me know. I want to know your thoughts. I've also still been reading Mary Oliver, her poetry. Her poetry book. I haven't gotten far in it at all, but this is American Primitive. I've been picking it up and putting it down and reading like a poem here or there. This is very beautiful if you love nature poetry or you love nature. Yeah, that one. And those are my current reads. I don't know what I'm going to read next. I haven't decided yet. I think, I don't know, my sister's going to try to convince me to read another like romance genre. She has, is it Love on the Brain or something? What's the one about the chemist? I think it's also Allie Hazelwood, which she gave to me. I was like, oh, you should read this next. I also have another one, Six of Crows. I also don't read much, what's that called? Like fantasy? Sci-fi fantasy? It's fantasy. It's not typically my favorite genre, but she gave me Six of Crows a while back, her copy to read, and I have not picked it up yet. So I feel like I should maybe try that. I don't know. We'll see. I say this and then I'm drawn to a completely different book. I have a stack. Yeah, let me know down below if you have any recommendations for me. I would love that. And I will see you all next week with a brand new video. Bye!